Welcome, everybody. So in this live stream, I want to talk about this 62.2% and how this relates to Social Security, because this is one of those hidden percentages out there that like nobody's talking about, but this plays into Social Security in a huge, huge way, as well as at the end of the day, our money, our benefits, and the longevity of Social Security as a whole. So these are some of the latest numbers that were released here. And again, just want to bring this to your attention because this is one of those numbers that's out there, but as we get into an economic situation like we're basically getting into right now, this number is likely going to go down pretty significantly. And the more that this number goes down, the more that Social Security is directly impacted. Now, it sounds like, am I like speaking in code words or like what's going on? No, not at all. But rather, let me point out exactly what this percentage is, why it's so incredibly important as it relates to Social Security as a whole, our money, our benefits, longevity of the program, as well as solvency for Social Security, because that is a major, major issue, right? So in fact, about, what was it, 2 months ago, give or take a few days here, we did get the annual Social Security Board of Trustees report, right? Wasn't looking so good. It got worse, significantly worse this year versus what it was last year when we got the same report, right? So it looks like insolvency is going to be in like 7.5 years, about, give or take a little bit. It's coming very, very quickly. They're running out of money. They didn't bring in nearly enough that they needed to pay out all the benefits. They dipped into the trust fund. Not a good situation. However, let me point out this most recent number that just came out last week. Not even a week ago, this number was released. It came in at 62.2%. What is this number? This is the labor participation rate. Okay, a lot of people like don't look at this or even like put any weight into this as far as how this directly impacts Social Security. So the labor participation rate is this one statistic that comes out each month at the beginning of the month in the labor report or the job report, the non-farm payroll report. You've heard me talk about that before in other videos. So within that data is the labor participation rate. Basically what this says is that how many people 16 or over basically are in the labor force, right? So of the entire population, which encompasses about 334 million people in this country, which by the way, quick side note here, I saw some headlines breaking across earlier today. The president is basically starting, I think it's a new commission to start the census, and they're going to be counting us a little bit differently this next time. So I don't want to talk about that here in this video. I just saw it coming across the wire today. Thought that was kind of interesting. But anyway, so what they find is that with the 335 million people in this country, those people that are 16 and above and over, 62.2% of the population 16 and over are in the labor force, okay? Now, why does this matter? Is that a good number? Is it a bad number? What are the details on this? Well, here's what we found. Over the last year or two or so, the labor participation rate has been coming down a bit. In fact, just like, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago, something like that. It was not that long ago. It was at 62.7%. And now it's at 62.2%, which seems like it's only 0.5%, right? Yeah, it's 0.5% of like 300 million people. So that's a lot of people, right? So why this is so incredibly important and how it directly impacts Social Security is that the lower this number goes, the labor participation rate means less people aged 16 and over in the labor force. Why do we care? What does that have anything to do with Social Security? Where does Social Security get its money? Social Security gets, well, last year, in fact, based on the Social Security Board of Trustees annual report, last year, they brought in a little over $1.4 trillion in payroll taxes. That's where the money comes from. The vast majority of the money that comes into Social Security comes in through payroll taxes, right? So that money that people pay through FICA taxes, okay, half of it's paid by the employee, half is paid by the employer. That money goes in. 12.4% of every dollar that is earned goes into Social Security through taxation, right? So that's where Social Security gets about $1.4 trillion of its income, according to last year's numbers anyway, that was released about 2 months ago in the Social Security Board of Trustees report. So as the labor participation rate continues to shrink, it means less and less people in the workforce, less and less people earning, making money, right? Earning money. That means less tax revenues being brought in through Social Security, payroll taxes. Does that make sense? So since that is the case, as we see less people working, Social Security is going to bring in less money through those payroll taxes. Now, at the same time, about 11,000 people a day, every single day, that started last year in 2024 through the end of 2027, 11,000 people a day are becoming eligible for Social Security. So, do you think that's going to put a little bit of pressure on the trust fund within Social Security? Absolutely, right? Now, is this something that we need to worry about today? No, not today. But based on the report that we got out about 2 months ago or so, give or take a little bit, again, Social Security Board of Trustees annual report, I talked about it in extensive detail when that came out. But based on that information, we already know that insolvency in and of itself right now, not taking into consideration the adjustments to the labor force, as in people paying in through payroll taxes, the largest of the income sources for Social Security, not taking into consideration that that is shrinking all the time. It's shrinking more and more and more, less people out there paying in. So that just means it's going to put eventually more strain on the Social Security Trust Fund. Now, I just want to make this very clear. I'm not here to scare anybody, okay? That's not my style. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm not here to scare anybody, but rather I wanted to point this out so we can all understand where some of these numbers are coming in and the importance behind all of this that's going on, right? Now, here's another wild card out there as well. We've been talking about the economy somewhat in other videos recently, right? I've talked about the labor reports that have come out really bad last week. We've been talking about other factors and the slowing economy, high interest rates, knocking on the door of a recession, slowdown, economic contraction, whatever you want to call it. Here's another part about this that I just want to point out really quickly. If/when we go into a big, nasty recession and we see jobs being cut, and people being laid off and just, businesses going under and whatever else happens within a recession and economic contraction, which that just happens. It's kind of the natural cycle of a recession or an economic contraction. When people are being laid off or let go or businesses are contracting, whatever it happens to be, where less and less people are working, unemployment rate is going higher. Guess what that is also doing? Yeah, again, less and less people paying in through Social Security payroll taxes, putting even more pressure on the trust fund. And again, I'm not making this video or hosting this live stream right now to scare anybody, but rather I want you to know what's going on, because does your local news come out and tell you this stuff? Do they come out and be like, hey, today we're going to talk about the labor participation rate? No, they don't. I mean, if your local news talks about that, let me know. I'd be very curious to hear that. But this is certainly something that impacts Social Security in a pretty big way, right? Kind of makes sense. Now, another thing I want to point out really fast as well. We're starting to see this. In fact, in this last report that we just got out last week, we're already seeing in some sectors, AI is taking over big portions of the jobs that are out there that are being replaced by AI. Well, guess what? Guess what AI also doesn't do? AI does not pay any taxes, just like the person does, right? So a human goes out there, works, trades their time for money, their salary, their hourly wage, whatever it happens to be. Whereas AI just works 24/7, 365, and it pays nothing, right? Which, by the way, they have proposed taxing robots. So they've talked about it. Who knows what they're going to do here, right? All right. Anyway, just what I wanted to point out for you really quickly here in this live stream, just so we can all be on the same page. And I was reading more about this today. It's kind of fascinating to read into this stuff, right? I don't know. It's kind of interesting. You kind of go down one rabbit hole, and then it's like, whoa, we got a whole lot of other information here to unpack and dig through. I don't know. It's just interesting to look through this. Now, also at the same time, I'll talk about this in a separate video. Lawmakers just introduced again today, putting aside $1.5 trillion. That's right, $1.5 trillion of new, fresh money that would be invested into index funds into the stock market. And then they would allow it to grow for the next 70 years or so. And that's what they would use to pay out Social Security benefits. So not taking money out of the trust fund, but rather funding an individual account dedicated to Social Security on the behalf of Social Security, investing $1.5 trillion of fresh new money right into the market and letting that money grow as a result of appreciation of, the equity markets, stocks, essentially, right? The indices, and then using that to pay out future benefits to beneficiaries. Interesting concept. We'll talk about that more in a separate video, but just wanted to share that really quickly. And again, that just hit the wire as well today. I dug into that a bit. I was going to talk about it here in this live stream, but I thought, we'll talk about that in a separate one. That's a whole nother situation in and of itself. Anyway, drop some comments down below. What do you think of all this right now? It's weird, right? By the way, quick side note, last year, according to the Social Security Board of Trustees, they brought in $55 billion of taxation of Social Security benefits. They also brought in $69 billion of interest on the money in the trust fund, right? But it only gained a 2.5% return on that money. That's terrible. They lost money in the trust fund last year because of inflation. All right, anyway, sounds like Corey here is to help me. Anyway, if you're turning 65 or if you're retiring or if you're one of the 70 million people on Medicare, make sure to call that phone number, get some free review of your Medicare plan. They'll look through the 20,000 plus plans that are out there. They'll find you the best plan for you and your personal situation. And after you talk to them, leave a comment down below. Let me know how it goes. And I'd love to give you a shout out and feature you in an upcoming video. Which, by the way, Miriam McGee just left a comment the other day. She's saving $1,200, $100 a month because of calling them a few minutes on the phone. Ken Johnson also reached out today. Again, he's saving $174 a month. That's $2,000 plus a year that he's saving because he called them right there. So anyway, call them, get a quick review. It's totally 100% for free. Let me know how it goes. Leave a comment down below afterward. Use the word chapter. That's the keyword that I search for. And I'd love to feature you in an upcoming video. All right, anyway, enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much, Corey.